Hello there my music lovers, I'm Josh audiophile-heaven and today we are having a look at Campfire Ara. This is a $1,300 EM with 7 balanced armatures. So we have 7 drivers in each of them EMs. They don't have a crossover, but they have a sound expansion chamber and are made of titanium. So let's get down to it, my boys. This is one of those EMs where I really love everything about it technically. So they are a marvel of engineering, those Campfire Ara. They really went out of their way to create a perfect EM Campfire audio. They usually have very interesting products. They also have entry-level and affordable products now, so everyone is going to have a good time with them. They also have these funky boxes that they keep using with their EMs. So we have those origami-like folding boxes. We have the EMs, which come with a set of vinyl and foam tips. Campfire Audio is a boutique producer, so they actually rely on more interesting packages, more interesting EMs, more interesting technology. They are not one of those mass producers for EMs, so they don't really produce that many EMs, so they can afford to have a more interesting approach to the EM world. They also have this vintage-like looking carrying case, which is actually good for protection. It has little wool inside. We get multiple pouches with accessories and other important stuff. We get a cleaning tool, we get pouch for EMs, we get a pouch with tips. Those are the final tips. We have foamies too, foam tips, and everything in between. The EMs are placed in this carrying case, which has little wool or liniță inside. And those are the EMs. They have pretty much the same cable as every other Campfire Audio EM. They all share the same cable. Campfire Audio really likes this cable. It is very high quality. You won't notice a huge upgrade even when upgrading to pretty expensive and pricey cables. The default stock Campfire cable is quite good. The Ara audio is actually interesting because it has a very low impedance, so it would theoretically be slightly prone to hissing, but I have not noticed this in actual usage. It is not very prone to hissing. It will hiss slightly easier than other EMs though. They also have a pretty low overall SPL at 94 decibels, so they are a bit hard to drive actually. You need the high quality DAP, but at $1,300 I expect you to purchase a high quality DAP to drive them. I don't expect you to be using them out of your smartphone. And they won't sound that great out of your smartphone. They really need a high quality source. They are comfortable despite being quite edgy in design. They don't really feel edgy in my ears. I have spin fit tips installed on them because I found the best comfort with spin fit tips, at least for me. They have MMCX connectors, one of the best quality out there. They go out easily, they enter easily. They are the best quality I've seen in a while. So as I was saying, 7 drivers, 7 with no crossover in between, so the drivers actually would theoretically be in danger of having interference and having more distortion, but the design is actually good. They don't have any of those. I don't have any idea how they managed to do that. Probably very careful driver matching, not like entry-level hi-fi companies which just slam 10 drivers in one EMs for $100 and you get a salad of sounds out of that. I'm looking at you, KZ. Every single KZM I heard has very high distortion. Not for that price. I can't complain, but for any price, yeah, they have pretty high distortion. Now, the Campfire Ara is quite comfortable. They are made to be worn over the ear. They enter my ears quite nicely. They have a deeper fit than your average EM, so they have a deeper fit. Not quite like a Timotic, which enters the brain and drills into your brain. Those ones are okay in comfort. I'm getting very good overall comfort with them. Very good passive noise isolation. I'm getting between 25 and 30 decibels of passive noise isolation. I can barely hear my voice, although it does vibrate in my head because those are EMs. The cable is not very tangle prone like every single other Campfire Audio cable. It is very high quality, not tangle prone, very flexible, does not age very much, so you can use it after years without concerning that it will harden or damage. And we get to the sound. The sound of the Campfire Ara is incredibly detailed, analytical, very clean, very crisp, very, very honest. It is excellent for mastering your music. It does not have a lot of bass though. And this is where things starts to get interesting. I have known Campfire Audio for quite a while and most of their EMs were quite bass heavy. They have very few models that are bass light actually. And the Campfire Ara is one of those models. They have very little bass. They are actually tuned around a very revealing, very clear and very crisp tuning. They do not have a ton of bass, but the bass they have is excellent in quality, very controlled, very deep, it reaches very low. It is just not that much in quantity. You can actually fine tune this via EQ, and despite it being a balanced armature based EM, it can take quite a lot of EQ, so it has a ton of headroom. Usually, EMs that have many balanced armature drivers cannot take a ton of EQ because the headroom is pretty much zero. As soon as you start to EQ them, they start distorting. This does not happen with the Campfire Ara. The best DAPs to drive them are pretty much iBass DX300, Lotopo 6000 and Astell&Kern SA180. And I'll emphasize this, but that Astell&Kern is pretty much one of my favorites for driving the Campfire Ara. It is pretty much the perfect DAP to drive them because it is smoother, deeper, and it has a more bassy signature, slightly warm, which actually combines well with Campfire Ara's tendency to be a bit bright and a bit too revealing, to have a bit too much detail. You actually can have too much detail, especially if you are someone who gets fatigued easily from an EM. And that is what I'm afraid of with Campfire Ara. A lot of you will want the best detail they can get, but a lot of you guys aren't ready for that detail. You will feel quite fatigued if you hear every single bit of detail there is. They are not fatiguing, like they don't have a too bright or too harsh sound that I would consider to be fatiguing, but they are a bit too revealing at times. They really reveal every single intricacy in your music. I feel like those EMs are actually way more comfortable than they look. They have that edgy design that Campfire used to have in their older EMs, and at first I assumed they won't be comfortable. At first I really assumed that they were going to be crazy edgy, but those parts here are rounded, so you don't ever feel them in your ear. Also, the board that goes inside your ear is very rounded and very smooth in texture. Campfire Audio is quite reliable too. They made EMs that have been very well regarded. They never break, and this is a myth. Like everyone says that Campfire Audio never breaks, and so far no one had an EM from Campfire Audio that really broke. Anyone who ever had a trouble was solved by Campfire Audio. Campfire Audio is quite trustworthy, quite good. They are one of those companies I really enjoy working with. You just need to make sure that you purchase the flavor you enjoy, because Campfire Audio Ara is extremely revealing. In fact, the level of detail it has is comparable to the Final Audio A8000, which is probably the most detailed EM I heard to date, but Campfire Audio Ara are actually comparable to that, except that Final Audio A8000 was a bit more splashy, a bit more bright in character. The treble was splashy, it made like a wet sound, while with Campfire Audio Ara it is more natural in overall tuning. It is not dry, so it doesn't really become too congested. The sound is never congested. The soundstage is natural in size. They aren't the widest sounding, but they aren't tight sounding either. They are pretty much natural. And all in all, the only trouble I could see someone having with them is with that bass, which might be a bit too little to some. On the other hand, I do consider that if you are looking for a very natural type of sound, you may consider them a bit too detailed. So there is a point where too much detail can become a bit too much. In theory, having titanium chambers also helps, because titanium is one of those metals that has very low distortions, and a lot of companies are using it for audio, like gold, silver, copper, and lately beryllium. The Campfire Audio Ara are quite good at what they do. Comparing the Campfire Audio Ara with Unique Melody Mest Mark II, because it is one of the most recent flagships I've reviewed, I do think that the Mest Mark II has a more meaty sound, especially down in the bass. They have a more colorful mid-range and a more smooth treble, which actually makes the Campfire Audio Ara slightly more neutral, which it means that they are much better for actually mastering and mixing music. But Campfire Audio Ara also has the advantage of being more detailed than the Unique Melody Mest Mark II. Mest was extremely detailed. It had plenty of detail. I mean, you could hear micro details that you could never hear. But with Campfire Audio Ara, I've noticed things in my music, but not in complex music. I wasn't listening to some orchestral with large orchestra and I could feel someone's cloth brushing off an instrument. No, I was listening to very cheap, very low-end music made by Broken Side and post-hardcore bands from 2010 that were very poorly recorded. But I could still hear new rhythms going on in the background and new things that I have never noticed on other headphones and other EMs. And this is the beauty of this hobby, discovering new sounds in your music. You don't have to listen to audiophile music, and I'm audiophile-heaven, that is the brand I'm using, but I don't really support the idea of using audiophile music. So don't listen to something you don't like just to be an audiophile. We aren't a gang and we aren't a club. You should enjoy your own music always. So if you like post-hardcore and the emo, go with it. If you like metal, go with it. If you like EDM, go with it. Don't let others judge your musical taste. Your musical taste is yours. It is a personal enjoyment. They are your ears. You are listening to that. Don't succumb to pressure and to peer pressure. Listen to what you enjoy most. Speaking of enjoying, I hope that this video has been enjoyable to watch. I hope you will consider leaving a like on this video. Also, press subscribe to audiophile-heaven. I really appreciate having more subscribers, especially if my videos are enjoyable. I really hope that you have the most awesome of days in the year. And if you have a few pesos to donate, I have a link in the video description. I hope you have the loveliest of weeks in there and see each other really soon. Bye bye.